You're not on the list. My daughter-in-law Sarah stood in the doorway of the house I'd paid for, wearing the pearl necklace I'd given her for her wedding. Behind her, I could hear my sisters laugh, my grandchildren playing, the clink of champagne glasses. Sarah, there must be a mistake. There's no mistake, Margaret. She started closing the door. This is our home, our party, our guest list. The door clicked shut in my face. I stood there for 30 seconds, maybe a minute, listening to my own family celebrating inside the house my money had bought. Then I walked back to my car, pulled out my phone, and called the only person who could help me destroy her. Mr. Chen, it's Margaret Williams. Remember that special clause you insisted I include in the loan documents? I'm ready to use it. The November air bit at my cheeks as I sat in my Lincoln, watching shadows move past the bay windows I'd specifically asked them to install. Those windows cost an extra $12,000. I know because I paid for them, just like I paid for the marble countertops where Sarah was probably serving appetizers, the hardwood floors where my grandchildren were running, and the French doors that led to the backyard where James had promised we'd have Sunday barbecues. Through those expensive windows, I saw my brother Richard raise a glass. My own brother, who'd driven past my house to get here, was toasting in a home I couldn't enter. Mr. Chen's voice crackled through my phone. Mrs. Williams, are you certain? Once we initiate this? She's wearing my mother's pearls, Mr. Chen. My voice came out steadier than I felt. The ones I gave her when she promised to be the daughter I never had. She's wearing them while she tells me I'm not welcome in the house I bought for my grandchildren's future. I'll have the papers ready Monday morning. No. I watched my 6-year-old granddaughter Lily press her nose against the upstairs window, scanning the street. Tonight. I want them served tonight. That's unusual, Mrs. Williams. So is being barred from your own investment. I started the engine, catching one last glimpse of the house. Cream siding with black shutters, exactly as I'd suggested when they couldn't decide. She has 30 days to pay back the full amount or vacate. Those were the terms she signed. The behavioral clause is clear. Damaging your relationship with the grandchildren voids the gift status. It becomes an immediately callable loan. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Helen. Where are you? Sarah said you couldn't make it. Are you sick? I wasn't sick. I was something far more dangerous. I was a 72-year-old woman with nothing left to lose, and legal documents that would make Sarah's perfectly highlighted head spin. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at me wasn't the grieving widow who'd written that check 3 months ago, desperate to keep her family close after losing Harold. This was someone else entirely, someone who just realized that kindness without boundaries is just another word for weakness. 20 minutes earlier, I'd parked across the street, watching cars fill the driveway I'd paid to repave. The gift bag beside me held a silver picture frame, Harold's and my wedding photo, that I'd planned to hang in their entryway. Inside the frame's backing, I'd tucked a letter to my grandchildren for when they were older, telling them about their grandfather, about our love story, about the dreams we'd had for them. My hands had trembled as I'd sealed it that morning, thinking how perfect it would look beside their new family photos. The house glowed against the darkening sky. Every window blazed with warm light, and I could see the party was already in full swing. Through the living room window, my friend Dorothy from book club stood chatting with Sarah's mother, a woman who'd never contributed a penny, but had plenty of opinions about the crown molding I'd suggested. I recognized more faces as I walked up the driveway. My nephew Tom, Harold's golf partner, Bill. Even Father Rodriguez from our church stood in the dining room, blessing the home with the same hands that had blessed Harold's casket 8 months ago. The front door stood slightly open, letting out bursts of laughter and the smell of something delicious, probably the catered spread Sarah had been posting about on Facebook all week. Celebrating our dreams coming true, she'd written, with not one mention of how those dreams were funded. I knocked anyway, a courtesy in a house my money built. Sarah appeared within seconds as if she'd been watching for me. She wore a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before, designer from the look of it. The pearl necklace caught the porch light. My mother's pearls that had survived the Depression, the war, 60 years of marriage. They looked wrong against her spray-tanned skin. Margaret, not Mom, which she'd called me for 5 years. Hello, Sarah, I lifted the gift bag. You can't come in. The words hung between us like a slap. Behind her, the party continued, oblivious. I saw James, my son, laughing at something near the fireplace I'd insisted they add. I'm sorry? You're not on the list. She pulled out her phone, actually scrolling through something. See, the guest list. You're not on it. Sarah, this is ridiculous. I'm James's mother. You're someone who's been showing concerning behavior lately. Her voice stayed pleasant, party perfect, but her eyes were cold as January ice. We think it's best if you... Grandma. Lily's voice cut through everything. My granddaughter pressed against the upstairs window, her small palm flat against the glass. She was wearing her princess dress, the purple one I'd bought her for her birthday. Sarah's head snapped up. Lily, get back to the playroom now. But Grandma's here, Grandma. Lily waved frantically. Lily, playroom now. The little face crumpled and disappeared. I heard her crying as someone, probably the babysitter, pulled her away. From the window. You're upsetting the children, Sarah said, as if I were the one who just screamed. You need to leave. Sarah, what have you told them? What have you... Mom? James appeared behind his wife, a beer in his hand, his tie loosened. My boy who used to run to me with skinned knees and bad dreams. What are you doing here? James, it's your housewarming party. Yeah, but Sarah said you weren't feeling well. Said you needed some space after, Dad and everything. Sarah's hand found his arm, possessive. She's confused, honey. Remember what I told you about the mood swings? The paranoia. I am not confused. My voice came out louder than intended. Heads turned inside. I saw my sister Helen crane her neck from the kitchen. Mom, please. James looked embarrassed. Embarrassed of me. Don't make a scene. A scene? James, I paid for this house. I gave you $200,000 for this. And we're grateful. Sarah cut in smoothly. But that doesn't mean you own us. This is our home, our family, our celebration. She stepped forward, actually stepping outside to block the doorway completely. And you're not welcome here. Through the bay window, I watched my brother Richard clink glasses with Sarah's father. They were standing beneath the chandelier I'd helped Sarah pick out online, the one she'd said would be perfect for family gatherings. My cousin Marie sat on the sofa I'd gone with them to buy, holding a plate of food I could smell but couldn't taste. 9-year-old Marcus, my grandson, ran past the doorway in his soccer uniform, the one from the team I'd been driving him to practice for all season. He didn't even look up. Leave, Sarah said quietly, or I'll call the police and tell them you're harassing us, showing signs of dementia, being aggressive. The gift bag slipped from my numb fingers. The frame shattered on the porch Harold and I had imagined sitting on with our grandchildren. As I sat in my car watching my own brother laugh at Sarah's joke through the window, I remembered something my late husband once said. Margaret, never give money without keeping a receipt. I'd done more than keep a receipt. I'd kept a loaded gun. Harold had been dead for 5 months when Sarah first mentioned the house. We were sitting in my kitchen, the one where Harold had made me pancakes every Sunday for 43 years. Sarah was crying. She'd gotten very good at crying around me lately. The tears always came right before she asked for something. We found the perfect house, Mom. She'd started calling me Mom 2 weeks after the funeral. It's in that neighborhood with the good schools, the one near Lily's dance studio, but the down payment... She let it hang there, dabbing her eyes with the tissue I'd automatically handed her. I stirred my tea and watched her perform. 3 weeks earlier, I'd overheard her on the phone in my bathroom during Sunday dinner. His mother is loaded, she'd whispered. Harold left her everything. We just need to be patient. Patient, like I was a harvest to be waited for. How much? I asked. $200,000 would cover the down payment and renovations. She reached across my kitchen table, grabbed my hands. Her wedding ring, the one James had saved for 6 months to buy, caught the light. But we could never ask you for that. Never. Of course not. She'd just cry about it until I offered. I want to help, I said, and watched her eyes light up before she remembered to look surprised. But I need to do this properly, through my lawyer. Your lawyer? The mask slipped for just a second. Mr. Chen, Harold always said to document everything, especially large gifts, for tax purposes. Oh. She recovered quickly. Of course, whatever you need, Mom. We're just so grateful you'd even consider this. 2 days later, we sat in Mr. Chen's office. He'd been Harold's lawyer for 30 years, had seen him through 3 business ventures and 1 lawsuit from a vindictive partner. When I'd called him the night before, explaining what I wanted, he'd been quiet for a long moment. Margaret, are you sure about this? I'm sure about protecting myself while appearing generous. Can you do it? He could. The papers looked standard enough. Gift documentation for tax purposes, some legal language about property transfers. Sarah barely read them, too busy calculating mortgage payments on her phone. James sat beside her, uncomfortable in his only suit, the one he'd worn to his father's funeral. Just standard paperwork, Mr. Chen explained smoothly. The IRS requires documentation for gifts over $15,000. This protects both parties. Sarah nodded eagerly, already signing where he indicated. She didn't read page 4 where the behavioral clause sat in plain English. She didn't notice the phrase, conditional gift contingent upon maintaining familiar relationships. She certainly didn't see the part about it converting to a callable loan if she deliberately damaged or interfered with my relationship with James or the children. Mom, are you sure? James asked quietly. My sweet boy, always worried about everyone else. This is so much money. Your father wanted his grandchildren to have opportunities, I said, which was true. Harold had wanted that. He'd also wanted them to have a grandmother in their lives, which was looking increasingly unlikely given Sarah's recent behavior. She'd been testing boundaries for months, canceling my Tuesday visits with the kids, forgetting to invite me to Marcus's soccer games, telling Lily that Grandma was too tired to come to her dance recital when I'd been sitting at home in my dress, waiting for a call that never came. This is so generous, Sarah gushed, signing the last page with a flourish. The kids will have such a beautiful home thanks to you. Mr. Chen made copies, one for them, one for me, one for his files. He handed Sarah their copy with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Congratulations on your new home. Remember, these documents are legally binding. Of course, she was already standing, eager to leave to start spending money she thought was free and clear. As we walked to our cars, Sarah linked her arm through mine. You know, Mom, once we're settled, we should probably set some boundaries. Healthy ones. Maybe scheduled visits instead of you just dropping by. It'll be better for everyone. Boundaries. She wanted boundaries after taking $200,000. Whatever you think is best, dear, I said mildly. At my car, she pulled me into a theatrical hug. You're the mother I never had, she whispered, loud enough for James to hear and smile. I hugged her back, feeling the document with her signature in my pocket. The document that said the money became immediately repayable if she ever damaged my relationship with my grandchildren. The check cleared on a Tuesday. By Thursday, Sarah had stopped answering my calls. She's probably just busy with the move, James explained when I finally reached him at work. You know how stressed she gets. Friday. I arrived for my regular visit with the kids, the same Friday visit I'd kept for 3 years, to find an empty driveway and a note taped to the door. Took kids to my mother's, forgot to tell you. Her mother lived 4 hours away. Sunday dinner, a tradition Harold and I had started when James was born, was canceled by text. Not feeling well, rain check? But Helen saw them at Olive Garden that night, the whole family laughing over breadsticks. Week 2. I called to ask if I could take Marcus to soccer practice, something I'd done every Wednesday since he joined the team. "Oh, Margaret, that's so sweet." Sarah's voice dripped concern through the phone. "But we've decided Marcus needs to learn independence. We'll handle it from now on." Independence from his grandmother. He was 9. "Can I at least come watch his game Saturday?" About that. Papers rustled dramatically. The schedule changed. I'll let you know the new times when I get them. The schedule hadn't changed. I knew because Tom Bradley's grandson was on the same team, and Tom told me they won 3-2. Marcus had scored twice. I'd missed it, sitting at home waiting for a call. Week 3 brought creativity. When I dropped by with cookies, Harold's mother's recipe that Marcus loved, Sarah answered the door, barely cracking it open. "The kids are napping." It was 4 p.m. Lily hadn't napped in 2 years. "I'll just leave these then. We're cutting back on sugar." She took the container and I heard it hit the trash before the door fully closed. By the 4th week, she'd refined her strategy. Now when I called, the children were always just about to do something. Bath time, homework, early bedtime because they were acting out. "Acting out?" I asked James when I cornered him at his office. "Since when?" "Sarah says they've been difficult since the move. Adjusting, you know." He wouldn't meet my eyes. She thinks maybe less stimulation would help. Fewer visitors. Fewer grandmothers, he meant. Week 5. Sarah started her masterpiece of manipulation. I ran into Lily at the grocery store with Sarah's mother. My granddaughter saw me from 3 aisles away. "Grandma!" She started running to me, arms outstretched. "Lily, no." Sarah's mother grabbed her arm. "Remember what Mommy said? Grandma Margaret is very busy now with her new life." My new life? The woman had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Sarah explained how you're dating again, traveling, too busy for family obligations now that Harold's gone." Dating. I hadn't left the house except for groceries and church since Harold died. "That's not—" "Lily, come." She dragged my granddaughter away, but not before I heard Lily ask, "Why doesn't Grandma want to see us anymore?" Week 6 delivered the cruelest blow. I'd managed to catch them at the park. Public property, Sarah couldn't ban me from that. Marcus was on the swings when he saw me. "Grandma!" He jumped off mid-swing, something I'd told him 100 times not to do, and ran toward me. Sarah materialized from nowhere. "Marcus, stop." He froze 10 feet away. "Mom said you don't want to be our grandma anymore," he said quietly. "She said you gave us the money for the house instead of love." Instead of love? She'd told my grandchildren I'd paid them off. "That's not true, sweetheart." "Kid's car, now." Sarah's voice was steel. They obeyed immediately, trained by 6 weeks of her poison. As they walked away, Lily turned back. She was crying, that silent cry she did when she was truly hurt, not the dramatic wails for skinned knees or broken toys. "Grandma, why don't you love us anymore?" The words hit me like Harold's death all over again. Sudden, shocking, stolen breath and stopped heart. Sarah smirked over her shoulder as she buckled them into her new SUV, the one my money had bought. She'd won, she thought. She'd taken my money and was erasing me from my grandchildren's lives, replacing their memories with lies, their love with confusion. My 6-year-old granddaughter asked me, "Grandma, why don't you love us anymore?" That's when I knew Sarah had been playing a longer game than I'd imagined. But she'd forgotten one thing. I'd been playing longer. Father Rodriguez stopped me after Mass with that look, the one priests perfect when they're about to discuss something delicate. "Margaret, I wanted to check on you. Sarah mentioned you've been struggling since Harold passed." "Struggling?" My fingers tightened on the worn leather hymnal, its edges soft from decades of Sunday mornings. She's asked us to add you to the prayer list. He touched my shoulder gently, his seminary ring cold through my blouse. For those dealing with mental decline, she said you've been confused lately, showing up at their house at odd hours, forgetting conversations. The stained glass threw colored shadows across his concerned face. St. Michael behind him seemed to mock me with his sword of justice. How thoughtful of her, I managed, tasting copper where I'd bitten my tongue. That afternoon, I transformed my dining room into a war room. Harold's legal pad came out, the yellow one he'd used for business deals. Time to investigate exactly how far Sarah's poison had spread. Dorothy from book club answered on the third ring. We'd shared 20 years of Tuesday nights, terrible wine, and discussions about whether Mr. Darcy or Mr. Rochester was the superior romantic hero. Margaret, how are you feeling? Fine, Dorothy. Why do you ask? A pause. Ice clinked in a glass. Dorothy's afternoon gin and tonic, right on schedule. Well, Sarah mentioned at the housewarming that you've been having episodes. Paranoia, she said, thinking people are stealing from you, accusing neighbors of moving your garbage cans. She discussed this at the party? She was so gracious about it, Margaret. Said she understood grief could manifest in strange ways. Even showed us a pamphlet about elderly mental health she'd gotten from your doctor. My doctor, Dr. Patel, who I'd seen exactly once since Harold's death for a blood pressure refill. Which doctor, Dorothy? She didn't say, but Margaret, she had official-looking papers, medical forms. I wrote down, forged medical documents? Dorothy kept talking, her voice dropping to that whisper reserved for terminal diagnoses and affairs. She said you'd given them money but couldn't remember doing it, that you'd called the police claiming fraud, then forgot you'd called them. The poor thing was nearly in tears. The poor thing, Sarah crying for an audience while wearing my mother's pearls. My nephew Tom worked at First National, managed the branch where Harold and I had banked for 30 years. He answered his office line with professional cheer that died when he heard my voice. Aunt Margaret, is everything all right? Tommy, has Sarah been in recently? Papers shuffled, a keyboard clicked. I shouldn't discuss. Thomas Michael Brennan, I changed your diapers when your mother had appendicitis. Talk. A sigh. She came in last week, wanted to discuss financial power of attorney. Said you'd been writing checks to telemarketers, giving cash to anyone with a sob story. She brought James. James was there? He didn't say much, just sat there looking miserable while she talked about safeguarding your assets. My son, my boy who'd once punched Billy Morrison for calling me fat when I was pregnant with his sister who died at birth. Now he sat silent while his wife plotted to steal my autonomy. What did you tell them? That you'd need to consent to any oversight. That's when she mentioned the dementia diagnosis. There is no diagnosis, Tom. She had paperwork. Forgeries. Silence stretched between us. Then, Aunt Margaret, she's telling everyone at the country club. Dad heard it from 3 different people at poker. The country club, where Harold had been on the board, where our wedding reception had been held in 1976, where everyone who mattered in our small town gathered for gossip disguised as golf. Helen arrived unannounced Thursday afternoon, using her key. I found her in my kitchen counting pills from my prescription bottles into her palm. What the hell are you doing? She jumped, tablets scattering across my counter. Checking your medications. Sarah's worried you're not taking them properly. Sarah's worried? I watched my sister, who'd held my hand through Harold's death, who'd been my maid of honor, invade my medicine cabinet like a common thief. She says you've been aggressive, Margaret, showing up uninvited, frightening the children, even threatening her. When have I ever threatened anyone? Helen pulled up her phone, glasses sliding down her nose. Look, she sent this to everyone. The family group chat filled her screen. 63 members, Harold's relatives in Florida, cousins in California, everyone except me. Sarah's message was a masterpiece of manipulation. Dearest family, I'm heartbroken to share this, but Mom Margaret is struggling severely. The grief has triggered something. The doctor thinks early stage dementia. She's had violent outbursts, false memories, even accused me of kidnapping when I took the kids to dental appointments. We're trying to protect the children while getting her help, but she keeps appearing at their school, the park, even followed us to Target. Please pray for her, but also please understand if we need distance. The professionals say boundaries are essential for everyone's safety. We love her so much, which makes this incredibly painful. Thank you for understanding. Violent outbursts, following them, appearing at schools I hadn't even visited. This is fiction, Helen. Is it? She swiped to another message. She has videos. The shaky footage showed me at the park, clearly agitated, voice raised, but the angle was precise. You couldn't see Marcus asking why I didn't love them anymore. Couldn't hear Sarah's provocations, just an elderly woman looking unhinged near a playground. Helen, she's orchestrating. This paranoia is exactly what she described. My sister backed toward the door, car keys, already in hand. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. You've known me for 72 years. Grief changes people, Margaret. That evening, I created a spreadsheet on Harold's old laptop. 3 columns: the lie, the truth, the witnesses. By midnight, I had 43 entries. My phone buzzed. Helen again. Sarah says you've been showing signs of dementia. Maybe it's best you don't come to Easter dinner. I screenshot it and added it to my file. Sarah had no idea she was building my case for me. Mr. Chen arrived at the Starbucks on Maple Street exactly at noon, carrying his grandfather's leather briefcase, the one he only used for what he called significant terminations. The papers are ready, he said, sliding the manila envelope across the sticky table. Once Sarah signs for these, she has 30 days to repay the full $200,000 or vacate the property. She doesn't need to sign, just receive them. I touched the envelope, feeling its weight. Process server? The best. Monica Reeves. She served divorce papers to mob lawyers and lived to tell about it. When? You tell me when, Margaret. But once we do this, tonight, 6:30. I pushed the envelope back to him. Sarah hosts book club every first Thursday. She'll be surrounded by her audience. His eyebrows rose. That's cruel. That's karma. Monica Reeves looked nothing like what you'd expect from a process server. Blonde highlights, designer handbag, could have been heading to yoga class in her Lululemon outfit. She sat across from me at 5:45, reviewing the paperwork one final time. She'll be hostile, I warned. They always are. Monica smiled, perfect veneers gleaming. That's why I record everything. Body cam, phone backup, the works. Her book club will be there. 8 to 10 women drinking wine. Perfect. Witnesses are always helpful if she claims she never received the papers. I parked 3 houses down from my son's home, my home technically, and watched Monica walk up the driveway at exactly 6:28. Through the living room window, I could see Sarah's book club in full swing. 8 women, wine glasses catching the light, Sarah holding court in the center, gesturing with her hands the way she did when telling a story she thought was hilarious. The doorbell's chime cut through their laughter. Sarah answered, still laughing at something, wine glass in hand. She wore a cream cashmere sweater I'd given her last Christmas, the one she'd gushed over, calling it too generous. Sarah Williams? Yes? Her voice lilted up, probably expecting a delivery. You've been served. The words cut through the evening air like a blade through silk. Monica handed her the envelope, took 3 quick photos of Sarah holding it, and walked away before Sarah could process what had happened. Wait, what is this? Monica didn't turn around. Her job was done. Sarah tore open the envelope right there in the doorway, her book club friends craning their necks behind her. I watched her eyes scan the first page, then flip frantically to the second, the third. No, this can't be. No, no, no. Her wine glass tilted, forgotten. Merlot splashed across her cream sweater like a prophecy written in blood. The papers shook in her hands. Sarah, honey, what's wrong? One of the book club women, Jennifer, I think the pediatrician, stepped forward. That bitch, she's calling in the loan. What loan? Sarah stumbled, backward into the house, papers clutched in her fist. Through the window, I watched her book club friends rise from their seats like a flock of startled birds. Sarah was gesturing wildly, papers flying. One friend picked up a page, read it, covered her mouth. $200,000? Sarah, what is this about? My mother-in-law, she's insane. She's trying to take our house. Can she do that? I don't. I need to call James. Everyone needs to leave. Now. The women scattered, gathering purses and wraps, whispering among themselves. Their night of discussing whatever fiction they'd chosen, ruined by real-life drama. My phone exploded with notifications. Text from James. Mom, what did you do? Text from Helen, Margaret. Sarah just called me hysterical. Text from unknown number. This is Sarah's mother. How dare you traumatize my daughter like this? Text from another unknown. Mrs. Williams, this is Jennifer Walsh from Sarah's book club. I think there's been a misunderstanding. 20 minutes later, Sarah burst out of her house, barefoot despite the November cold, mascara streaming down her face in black rivers. She stood in the driveway, arms spread wide, screaming at the sky like a character in a Greek tragedy. Margaret, I know you're watching, you evil witch. She was right. I was watching. Recording too on my phone. You can't do this. This is our home, our children's home. Porch lights flickered on up and down the street. The Hendersons stepped onto their porch. Mrs. Patterson peered through her curtains. Sarah's perfect suburban reputation crumbling in real time. James's truck screeched into the driveway 10 minutes later, taking the turn so fast his tires squealed. He'd left work mid-shift. I could tell from his still wearing his name tag from the dealership, his shirt untucked on one side. Sarah ran to him, collapsed against his chest, sobbing theatrically. But I saw him hold her at arm's length, saw his mouth form the words. What did you do? They went inside. The remaining book club members filed out quietly, clutching purses and wine bottles, avoiding eye contact with each other. Tomorrow this would be all over town. By Sunday, everyone at church would know. The call started at 7 on the dot. 7:12, second call, 7:15 through 8:45. 15 more calls, each ring more frantic than the last. The voicemails evolved like watching someone go through the stages of grief and fast forward. First, denial. Margaret, this is Sarah. There's obviously been a huge misunderstanding. Please call me back immediately. Then bargaining. Mom, please, we need to talk about this. The children. Think about what this will do to Lily and Marcus. Anger came at 9:30. You can't do this. We're family. What kind of monster does this to her own son? Depression at 10. Please, Margaret, I'm begging you. We have nowhere to go. How could you do this to us? The final message, left, at 11:17 p.m. was pure, unfiltered rage. Her voice was raw, slurred with wine, dripping with venom. You vindictive old witch, you're destroying your own son's life because what? I didn't invite you to one party. You're sick, Margaret, sick. Harold would be disgusted by what you've become. You're going to die alone, you miserable bitch, and when you do, I'll dance on your grave. I saved that one, downloaded it, backed it up to 3 different clouds, emailed it to Mr. Chen with the subject line, evidence of harassment and threats. Sarah called 17 times that night. I didn't answer once, but I did listen to the voicemail where she screamed that I was a vindictive old witch who was destroying her family. I saved that one too, evidence of harassment. James stood on my porch at 6 a.m. still wearing yesterday's work shirt, his eyes red-rimmed and wild. "Open the door, Mom, I know you're awake." I let him in. He pushed past me into the kitchen, pacing like a caged animal between the table where he'd eaten thousands of meals and the counter where I'd made his school lunches for 12 years. "How could you?" His voice cracked, not the man who sold cars with confidence, but the boy who'd once sobbed when his goldfish died. "How could you ambush Sarah like that in front of her friends?" "Sit down, James." "I don't want to sit. I want to know why you're destroying my family." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm collecting a debt." "A debt?" He laughed, bitter and sharp. "You gave us that money. You said it was a gift." I pulled out the folder I'd prepared, thick with documentation. "A conditional gift. Your wife knew the conditions when she signed." "What conditions?" "Sarah said you added those later, that you're trying to retroactively—" "James." I slid the original contract across the table, Sarah's signature bold on every page. "Read it." He snatched the papers, scanning furiously. I watched his face change as he reached page 4, the behavioral clause highlighted in yellow. "This says, if she damages your relationship with the kids, keep reading." "The gift converts to a loan immediately callable." He looked up. "Mom, why would you do this?" "Because I didn't trust her, and I was right." "You set her up." "No, I protected myself. There's a difference." James collapsed into his father's chair, the one we'd never moved after Harold died. "She made one mistake, Mom. She didn't invite you to one party." "One party?" I opened my laptop, pulled up the file labeled Evidence. "Let me show you what your wife has been doing." The first screenshot was from her Facebook message to Jennifer Walsh. "Margaret's losing it. Dementia, probably. We're looking into homes, but dollars. Hopefully insurance covers it." She didn't. October 15th, 2 weeks after I gave you the money. Next screenshot, a text to her mother. "Got M to babysit again. Free childcare from the crazy lady LOL. Kids don't even like her, but whatever." James's jaw tightened. She was venting. "This is from her group chat with her college friends." I clicked to the next image. "Can't wait till the old bat croaks. James will inherit everything and we can finally live properly. Already looking at houses in Malibu?" Stop. This one's from last month. Another click. "Told the kids Grandma is too sick to see them. Easier than dealing with her dropping by whenever. James doesn't know. He'd flip." "She told me you were the one canceling." "I know she did." I pulled out my phone, showed him my call log. 43 calls to your house in the last month, all unanswered. 12 texts asking to see the children, all ignored. James grabbed my phone, scrolling through the messages. His face went pale as he read his wife's responses. "Not a good time. Kids are busy. Maybe next month. She said you weren't interested in seeing them anymore." "And you believed that? After I helped raise them? After I watched them every Tuesday for 3 years?" "She said the money changed you, made you feel like you'd done enough." I played him a voicemail from 2 weeks ago. Sarah's voice filled the kitchen. "Margaret, stop calling. You're harassing us. The children don't want to see you. You scare them now. Take the hint." Jesus Christ. James buried his face in his hands. "There's more." "I don't. You need to see this." I opened the video from the park, the full version Monica had helped me retrieve from a security camera. It showed everything. Marcus asking why I didn't love them anymore. Lily crying for me. Sarah smirking as she dragged them away. James watched it twice, his knuckles white as he gripped the table. She told them you didn't love them? She told them I gave you money instead of love, that I'd paid them off. My children think, he stood abruptly, chair scraping. My kids think their grandmother abandoned them? Read this. I handed him the printed email Sarah had sent to Dr. Patricia Morse, a geriatric psychiatrist. She was trying to have me declared incompetent. His hands trembled as he read. My mother-in-law is showing clear signs of dementia, paranoid delusions, false memories, aggression. My husband refuses to see it. What steps can we take to assume power of attorney without his consent? She was going to have me committed, take control of my finances. Your father left me more than just the money I gave you, James. How much more? Enough that Sarah's been planning this since the funeral. I showed him the final piece of evidence, a text exchange between Sarah and someone named Brad, dated 3 weeks ago. Sarah, almost done here. Few more months and we'll have everything. Brad, what about your husband? Sarah, James is clueless, believes whatever I tell him. Once we get power of attorney over his mom, we're set. California by summer. Brad, love you, baby. Sarah, love you too. James stared at the text where Sarah told her friend, once the old bat dies, we'll sell everything and move to California. His hands shook. Mom, I need to go home. I need to talk to my children. Sarah's lawyer looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. A strip mall attorney who specialized in DUIs and divorce, completely out of his depth. My client alleges elder abuse, he announced to the emergency hearing, his voice cracking on the word abuse. Mrs. Margaret Williams manipulated my client into signing documents under false pretenses, taking advantage of a grieving family's vulnerability. Sarah sat beside him in a black suit that screamed victim, dabbing at her eyes with tissues she kept checking for actual tears. The courtroom smelled of old wood and disappointment, filled with the kind of people who ended up in property disputes. Angry, desperate, convinced they were right. Mr. Chen stood smoothly. Your Honor, we have evidence that contradicts these claims entirely. Proceed. Chen clicked his laptop. Sarah's voice filled the courtroom from the speaker. Got M to babysit again. Free childcare from the crazy lady. Kids don't even like her, but whatever. Sarah's perfectly composed face cracked. That's taken out of context. Mrs. Williams, you'll have your chance to speak. Judge Harrison interrupted. He was 70-something, with the exhausted patience of someone who'd heard every lie humans could craft. Chen continued, methodical as a surgeon. This text message, sent 3 weeks after my client generously provided $200,000 for a home, shows Mrs. Sarah Williams discussing plans to have Mrs. Margaret Williams declared incompetent. The screenshot appeared on the courtroom monitor. Sarah's lawyer fumbled with his papers, clearly seeing this evidence for the first time. Furthermore, Chen clicked again, here's Mrs. Sarah Williams instructing her children that their grandmother doesn't love them anymore, a direct violation of the behavioral clause she knowingly signed. Objection. Sarah's lawyer stood, wobbling slightly. That's hearsay. It's a video from a public park security camera, Your Honor. Fully admissible. The judge nodded. I'll allow it. The video played. The courtroom watched Sarah tell my crying grandchildren that I'd abandoned them. Even the court reporter looked disgusted. Sarah stood suddenly. She's vindictive. She planned this from the beginning. What kind of grandmother sets up her own family? Mrs. Williams, sit down. Judge Harrison commanded. No, she's evil. She gave us that money to control us. The money came with clear conditions. Chen interjected calmly. Conditions your client agreed to in writing. Page 4, Section 3. This gift converts to an immediately callable loan if the recipient deliberately damages or interferes with the relationship between Margaret Williams and her grandchildren. I didn't damage anything. She's paranoid. Chen produced another document. This is a psychiatric evaluation of Mrs. Margaret Williams conducted yesterday by Dr. Robert Fleming, showing no signs of cognitive decline, paranoia, or any mental health issues that would impair her judgment. She paid him to say that. Your Honor, Chen's voice carried the weight of checkmate. I'd like to present Exhibit F, a text message from Mrs. Sarah Williams to someone named Brad Morrison discussing plans to, quote, get power of attorney over his mom and move to California by summer. The courtroom went silent. Sarah's lawyer shuffled through his papers frantically, mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. Who's Brad Morrison? Judge Harrison asked. Sarah's face had gone from red to white to green. He's nobody, a friend. James, who'd been sitting in the back row, stood up. Brad Morrison is her ex-boyfriend from college, Your Honor. I just found out about him yesterday. Mr. Williams, you're not a party to this case. I'm the homeowner, Your Honor. My name's on the deed alongside the loan from my mother. James walked forward, his carpenter's hands steady despite everything crumbling around him. I found their correspondence last night. My wife's been having an affair and planning to leave with my children once she got control of my mother's assets. Sarah spun toward him. James, baby, that's not... Don't. His voice could have frozen July. You told my children their grandmother didn't love them. You tried to have her committed. You were going to steal everything and run off with Brad? Your Honor, Sarah's lawyer attempted, sweat beading on his forehead. We request a continuance to review this new evidence. Mr. Peterson, the judge turned to Sarah's attorney. Did your client inform you about this Brad Morrison? No, Your Honor. Did she tell you about the video evidence, the text messages, the psychiatric evaluation she attempted to arrange? No, Your Honor. Peterson, that was his name, closed his briefcase with the decisive click of a man who knew he'd been played. He wouldn't meet Sarah's frantically searching eyes. Judge Harrison removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly, the kind of gesture that preceded judicial wrath. Mrs. Sarah Williams, this court finds that you knowingly and willfully violated the terms of a legal agreement. You accepted money with clear conditions and broke those conditions repeatedly and maliciously. But, furthermore, your attempts to portray yourself as a victim of elder abuse while simultaneously plotting to have Mrs. Margaret Williams declared incompetent shows a disturbing pattern of manipulation and fraud. Sarah's carefully constructed victim persona shattered completely. You can't do this. That's my home, my children's home. The judge looked at Sarah over his glasses. Mrs. Williams, you signed this agreement willingly. You accepted the conditions. You violated them. You have 30 days to pay or vacate. Sarah's lawyer wouldn't even look at her. James pulled into my driveway at midnight with 2 sleeping children in the back seat and everything they owned in garbage bags. She changed the locks, he said, standing on my porch like a lost boy, holding Lily against his shoulder. While we were at school and work, just change them. Marcus stood beside him, clutching his soccer ball and the blanket Harold had knitted for him. Badly knitted, with dropped stitches and uneven edges, but made with love. The boy's eyes were swollen from crying, confused why Mommy had screamed at Daddy to get out and take your mother's spawn with you. Come in, I said, opening the door wider. Your rooms are ready. I'd kept their rooms exactly as they'd left them from their last sleepover, back when Sarah still pretended to tolerate me. Marcus's Constellation nightlight still worked. Lily's stuffed unicorn army still lined the window seat. Grandma? Lily stirred as James carried her upstairs. Are we having a sleepover? Yes, sweetheart, a long one. Where's Mommy? James's jaw clenched, but I touched his arm. Mommy needs some time alone, baby. Sleep now. The first week was hardest. Sarah had poisoned them so thoroughly that Marcus flinched when I made breakfast, asking, "Are you still sick, Grandma? Mommy said you were too sick to see us." "I was never sick, sweetheart." But Mommy said, "Sometimes adults say things that aren't true when they're upset." He processed this while eating Harold's favorite recipe, cinnamon French toast with real maple syrup, not the sugar-free substitute Sarah insisted on. "Is Mommy upset with you?" "She's upset with herself." James took leave from work, spending hours on the phone with lawyers, banks, credit card companies. Sarah had maxed out 3 cards in his name before leaving. She'd also emptied the savings account and their children's college funds, the small ones James had started when they were born. $8,000, he told me one evening after the kids were asleep. She took $8,000 meant for their education. "We'll fix it." "How? I can't even afford a lawyer for the divorce." "The house will sell. You'll rebuild." Sarah had vanished to California with Brad Morrison, posting beach selfies on Instagram while her children asked why Mommy didn't call. She'd left behind closets full of designer clothes, but taken every piece of jewelry, including Lily's tiny gold bracelet, a gift from Harold before he died. The house sold in 3 weeks. Young couple pregnant with their first child, charmed by the very features I'd suggested. The bay windows, the French doors, the breakfast nook where a family could gather. They paid cash, eager to nest before their baby arrived. $350,000, James said, staring at the check. "After paying you back in the real estate fees, there's almost $100,000 left. Split it 3 ways. You and each child get a third." "Mom, I can't." "College funds for them. Starting over fund for you. Non-negotiable." Mr. Chen set up the trusts that afternoon. $30,000 each for Marcus and Lily, untouchable until they turned 18. Sarah couldn't access them even if she tried. Slowly, truth replaced lies. Marcus figured it out first, older and more observant. "Grandma, why did Mommy tell us you didn't want to see us?" "I don't know, sweetheart. What matters is we're together now." She lied, didn't she? Like when she said Daddy was mean to her, but he never was. Children see more than we think. Lily took longer, still asking for Mommy at bedtime. I'd hold her while she cried, smelling her strawberry shampoo, feeling her little heart breaking against my chest. "Will Mommy come back?" "I don't know, baby." "Did we do something bad?" "Never. You're perfect exactly as you are." One Sunday after church, Dorothy stopped me. "Margaret, I owe you an apology. We all do. Sarah had us convinced it's done, Dorothy." "But we believed her over you. After knowing you for 20 years, she was convincing. That's what manipulators do." Helen drove up from Phoenix, spent a week helping James look for apartments. "I'm sorry, Margaret. I should have trusted you." "You're here now. That's what matters." 6 weeks after the court hearing, Sarah sent one text to James. "This isn't over." He showed it to his lawyer, who added it to the harassment file. She never contacted the children. Spring came early that year. I taught Marcus to plant tomatoes in Harold's garden. Lily learned to make cookies from my mother's recipe, getting flour everywhere, laughing like she hadn't in months. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, my granddaughter asked me, "Grandma, why did Mommy lie about you?" I smoothed her hair and said simply, "Sometimes people show us who they really are when money is involved. That's why Grandma always keeps receipts." Harold's coffee mug still sits on my kitchen counter, 6 months after Sarah fled to California with her boyfriend. I'm Margaret Williams. I'm 72 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that might save your family. Love is not a legal document, but it should be backed by one. Every morning I make breakfast for my grandchildren in the kitchen where their mother told me I was too old and confused to be trusted. Marcus now helps me flip pancakes, Harold's recipe, heavy on vanilla. Lily sets the table, carefully placing forks exactly parallel to knives, the way her grandfather taught her before he died. Their mother sends postcards occasionally. No return address, just images of palm trees and beaches signed Love Mom. James throws them away before the children see them. The divorce will be final next month. Here's what I learned. When Harold insisted we document everything, I thought he was paranoid. Even with family? I'd asked. Especially with family, he'd said, adjusting his reading glasses to review another contract. Money doesn't change people, Margaret. It reveals them. That behavioral clause? Harold's idea planted in my mind through years of watching his business dealings. Always have an exit strategy, he'd say. Hope you never need it, but have it. Some of you watching will think I'm cruel, that I should have forgiven Sarah immediately. Let her keep the house for the children. But keeping that house would have meant keeping Sarah's influence, her poison, her lies. My grandchildren would have grown up believing their grandmother abandoned them for convenience. The $200,000. It's all in trust funds now. Marcus and Lily will have college paid for, down payments for their own homes someday, starts to lives built on solid ground, not manipulation. James found an apartment 10 minutes away. He's dating a teacher from Marcus's school, a kind woman who brings her own children to play with mine. They're building something real, honest, documented with shared custody agreements and clear boundaries. Mr. Chen still handles my affairs. Last week, he helped me update my will with specific behavioral clauses for inheritance. Learning from experience? He asked. Teaching from it, I corrected. I gave my daughter-in-law $200,000 for her dream home, but I also gave her the rope to hang herself with. She chose to use it. In the comments, tell me, would you have activated that clause, or would you have let her keep the house for your grandchildren's sake? And remember, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time, but keep the receipts just in case.